Hi there, good evening and welcome to Sunday the 16th of July edition of the Sunday session here at This Is Ibrox. My name's Scott Patterson. If you're taking time out to join us on your Sunday, needless to say, we really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Joining us tonight to discuss all things that have passed since we last spoke on Wednesday is Andy Anderson. Hi Andrew, how are you?
Very well indeed. Looking forward to the friendly starting and seeing exactly where we sit after the kind of big changeover, but I'm excited to get going.
Absolutely. And Kyran, fresh back. And I have to say, for someone who's been in Ibiza, he does look reasonably fresh for return. When did you get back? Yesterday? Earlier?
Get back yesterday, yep, flew back in. Very much a different holiday from when I went there when I was 19. So a lot more chilled out. And as you can see, I'm a fan of the shade, not so much the sun. So
I assume it was enjoyable nonetheless, yeah?
Brilliant. Chilled out, needed it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the season starting back. I've been glued to Rangers TVs. I imagine everybody watching, and you guys have been. So I've seen every second of everything that's went on. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So listen, on the pod tonight, we're going to discuss a little bit about Graham Souness potentially knocking back an ambassadorial role at the club, as confirmed later on. We'll speak about the pre-season camp in January, in Germany, rather, right in the middle. We'll do a little bit about, hopefully, the pending arrival of Danilo from Feyenoord. But first, Andrew, we can't not speak about Antonio Colak, who departed yesterday to Parma, fee rumoured to be $2.5 million. Club's top scorer last season, 14 goals in 25 games. He leaves to go to, I think it says 12th senior club. Thoughts on Colak leaving off the bat?
Ever so slightly disappointed, I must admit. He grew on me last year. I was amongst the majority of Rangers fans, I'm quite sure, who thought at the time he's not the answer. It was waxed lyrical on social media, various podcasts. A lot of people had that opinion. He doesn't look like he's going to hit the ground running, etc. Then the Champions League ones came round. Great goals in the Champions League, and then if I remember right, is it 15 goals? He scored 15 goals for us last year, all in 17 goals.
Something like that, but I thought 14. But I'll bow your superior, buddy. Absolutely.
You're probably right, Scott. Had he not had that injury, would he have got to the 20 mark and above? I think probably so. And if you're going to win a league with a Rangers team, you need a striker who's going to score north of 20 goals a season. It's as simple as that. I think he could have got there. $2.5 million. I would like to have seen that maybe 3.5, 4. Yeah. I think he was probably worth that. At the age he is, maybe not. But as you mentioned in the kind of intro there, there seems to be a bit of momentum gathering with Danilo from Feyenoord, and it looks to be a good bit of money being spent on him. He's certainly younger, more kind of player profile you're looking for. So yeah. He's away now. We have to embrace it. If we get somebody like Danilo in, then excellent. But off the bat, slightly disappointed to see Colak going.
Kyran, one of the things that I'm a great believer in, and I think I said this actually when Colak came in last summer, there's something sexy about Rangers having a really good goal-scoring number 9. So while I'm not entirely sure Danilo is going to come in and be the number 9, he probably plays in that sort of area. I think one thing that became quite obvious when Michael Beale came back to replace Giovanni was that Colak, I don't think, had that same sort of ability that Beale wanted to operate around the front three. Very much a sort of penalty box striker, for want of a better term or phrase. But quite clear early doors that he wasn't going to be a first pick for Michael Beale. And indeed, I think if a guy like Kemar Roofe has better fitness, Colak would be absolutely nowhere near any of the Beale lineups for me.
Yeah, I think, like you touched on there, it's a case of circumstance. It doesn't quite fit the system. I know that's been said to death. And now he's got himself, I think that's a great move. He's got to Parma. I think he's going to be a great success in Serie B. Apparently he's in really good money. But yeah, it's a case of circumstance. I know we talk about systems and stuff like that, but the one that sticks out for me was Hibs away, where I thought he was outstanding in that front three, and he wasn't just appearing as a number 9, right? But Beale plays a modern style of football, and when you really think about it deep down, like the number 9 in football is almost extinct. Like think back in the day in the Premier League when you had guys like Van Nistelrooy, Sheringham, Solskjaer, York,
Andy Cole.
all these Man U strikers, just all pure out and out number 9s that suited Ferguson's style. For us, I don't know if you could call McCoy purely a poacher, but he was a 9. But 9s are
The 9.
for me, is what?
He was the 9.
He was, I know, I'm a hero. But the number 9, that position's going out of fashion now. We touched on Danilo. To me, he looks like a guy that could play off the main striker. But we're not far away. I think we talk about 2.5 million. Okay, it's good money, and I agree with Andy. Maybe we could have pushed the boat out and got a wee bit more. But I think they're looking at it as speculate to accumulate. If that 2.5 million can get Danilo in the door, 24-year-old Brazilian that looks like he's really going to hit the ground running with his best years ahead of him, they're really looking at this guy. He's an investment. And to me, having watched him, he's in the mould of Roof almost. Great technically, a lot of work rate, quite quick on the ground. So I think that's the way they see it for him. So if that gets that deal over the line, then I think we'll all be delighted.
And I think it's easy to forget. He kind of not forget as such, but he played a huge part. Cubby sort of joins us on YouTube tonight. Hi, Cubby. Shame to see Colak go. Need to move players on to bring in the new, which is absolutely right. Top memory of him, of course, was scoring against PSV at home and away last August. And I mean that game across in Holland was just bizarre. And for Colak to score, and there was a tap in, and it took ages to roll over the line. I remember it. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think he'll go with the best wishes of the support. We got a good season out of it, I think, to be perfectly honest with you, and just a really good striker. However, I think as far as systems are concerned, he was going to find himself playing very much on the periphery this season. Kyran, you going to say something, buddy?
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning as well. Like, I know I spoke about circumstance, but if he was that good, we wouldn't be selling him. Yeah. And again, it's another one that's not worked out from this infamous Ross Wilson transfer window last summer.
Yes, Mr. Wilson. Who can forget him? Goodness me. So listen, Anthony, Colak goes with our very, very best wishes, and we will get to some of the other stories. I see in some of the comments there's people talking about who we need in next, who's still to go. We will get to that as the pod progresses between now and 9 o'clock-ish. Kyran, I'll stick with you on Danilo. He is the one that seems to be high on Michael Beale's wanted list now. We've went in again with a second bid by all accounts. Feyenoord looking for £6 million for a guy now. If memory serves me right, you're talking about a guy who is Brazilian, came through the Ajax sort of youth academy. Reece Cochran, who's part of the group, will be able to rhyme off this better than I will. But he seems to be, I think often every summer we talk about marquee signings. He would be the guy. He would be the marquee signing for Michael Beale this summer, wouldn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And you watch the YouTube videos like everybody watches. He looks an exciting player. He scores from short range, long range. He looks an all-action striker. £6 million for us is a huge outlay. I can't see it being as much as that. I can see it coming down around the 5 million, 4.5 sort of mark. But you've seen figures bandied about everywhere. But for us, I think somebody said it in our chat, it's the sexy signing, isn't it? Brazilian coming to Ibrox, 24 years old. And someone also said the clips, might have been you, Andy, that put it in the last friendly that they played the first half. Very like, and I'm not saying he is as good as, but Gabriel Jesus, that sort of style of play where he's in and around the box, great with the ball at his feet, and they must have really done their homework in this guy if they're pushing the boat out and they're just not letting it lie. Because let's be honest, a couple of weeks back when we signed Dessers, nobody was prepared for us to go and get Danilo as well.
Absolutely.
And see, I've admittedly, so shamefully, I've got my Rangers TV subscription for this month because it keeps me up with the pre-season. I'm a bit starved, I think. So I watched the last Old Firm match back because I can kind of see you setting up like that. And one thing that stood out to me was everything right up until the front line, minus Cantwell, was good. See if you take Sakala and Matondo out there and put, I know we've not seen a lot of them yet, somebody like Dessers, Sima, Danilo, these type of players, we were very, very wasteful that game. I know we won 3-0, but you put them into that squad with that formation, Raskin, Lundstrom, Jack. I know a lot don't want to see Lundstrom playing too much or Jack playing too much. They were outstanding in the middle of that game. I hate to go off on a tangent, but that's how I can see us playing, with that sort of Cantwell feeding off. Imagine Cantwell with these players round about him.
100%.
We think we've seen the best of Cantwell. We've not. It's around him with good players, and if he's not already, he's going to be the best player in Scotland by a mile.
Yeah, Andrew, the big thing for me, I think, is I don't think it's been reported that this sort of Danilo deal is particularly far along the road. I do think, and I'd be really surprised if this wasn't the case, that if we have moved on Antonio Colak yesterday, that there must be something in the background that gives the club and the grown-ups at the club a nice feeling that we're going to get this guy in fairly shortly.
I agree. I totally agree, Scott. It's, in my opinion, it's a lot further along the road than is getting made out to be. The money will be getting spoken about, and I'm with Kyran on that. I think it will sit around the 5 mark, and I think it will happen. But Kieran's exactly right as well. Nobody thought this when we signed Dessers. That was it. It was Danilo or Dessers. That's what you were hearing, and that was a valid opinion to have. I suppose it is. But getting rid of Colak, this makes it. I'm excited by him. Just to reiterate what Kyran was saying there, we've got is the YouTube. That's what we always go with. Yeah. And I will put my hands up and sit here and say that I quoted that Rabbi Matondo would be a world beater this time last season. So we could all be wrong, but something tells me I'm right with Danilo. He mentioned Cantwell a couple of times, Kyran did there. He looks very similar. Seeing tight and closed spaces, he can make space for himself like Cantwell can. He's got a good shot on him. He plays off a striker. I think he's got everything. And sexy is the word. He's very, very exciting. And I think it is further along than we know.
Do you know that I don't care what anyone says, and the guys are getting involved in the chat as far as Danilo's concerned. There's just something anytime. And I don't want to say a Brazilian because I appreciate that. I'll bring out some of the Rangers dads in the chat. However, but if we refer to bringing in Brazilian footballers, cough, to your club, you instantly think that the guy is going to be the absolute berries. He's going to land on his feet. And while you don't want to sort of suggest that it may not be the case, the good thing is that this guy's plied his career largely in Europe. So there shouldn't be a huge... I don't want to say a bedding in, because of course there is a bedding in period when players come to Glasgow, and particularly with Rangers. However, the fact that this guy's played at a really good level in Holland for the best part of his career, I think to get him in would be really, really, really exciting. And when you look at the Brazilians we've had in previously, Krabari, Emerson with that fantastic mop of hair, I think you're definitely talking. You're talking a different standard of, again, a Brazilian here. So I do hope that over the next wee while that we manage to get that over the line. I think it's an exciting time of pre-season. Obviously, the pre-season games are starting next week. I think the more bodies that we get in that buy into the ethos that Beale has in the first instance, I think what you're now seeing is Michael Beale buying players that fit into that front 3 ethos. So he doesn't have anyone who is a penalty box striker, for example. He's got guys that can play in and around that area and interchange. I've said for a wee while now that I've always felt that there was a good chance that the guys that he brought in the summer would be akin to formatting the way that Liverpool play. So one guy one side, one guy the other, and a guy in the middle, and they all interchange as and when they like. I think you're going to see a lot of that this season. I think Danilo fits into that. So exciting, really exciting. But you would have to imagine that the deal for the Brazilian is a lot further along the road than what we think, considering we've sold the guy that scored the most goals for us last season. So we shall watch that with great interest. Andrew, the first team squad returned from Germany at the end of last week. Friday, I think they came back into the country. It might actually have been yesterday. Looks like it's been a huge success. By all accounts, they've went to a very, very sort of remote part of Germany. And looking at the comments came from Michael Beale saying the players have run north of 40k. So he has worked them hard for 4 days. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
As you fully expect. You fully expect that. Michael Beale at the close of last season, I can't remember the term he used, but it was basically put it to the back of your mind. He was looking forward to a strong pre-season. And the worry I had, and I'm sure a lot of Rangers fans had, where we knew just how many new signings had to come in. It's always a worry. I must admit, I fall into the category of last year watching a few games thinking we need wholesale change. And now we've had wholesale change. I'm now thinking maybe that's a bit much. We've got too many youth. I'm quite sure I'm not alone in that. I can't be alone in that.
You're not a proper Rangers daft, you're saying that, Andy.
I know. And it's been proven before that teams with a big turnover squad in the summertime can go on and win a league. That can be done. But that starts with a very, very hard and intense pre-season with the majority of the new signings in prior to that happening. That's what's happened here. He's took them to Germany. The majority seem to be in. I fully expect another couple to come in. Danilo, hopefully Cifuentes as well, things like that. The majority of the crux of Michael Beale's team going forward were in Germany. You've got to think, and he worked them hard. That's got to be good. That's got to be a good start. I've often wondered in the past when there's such a kind of long pre-season before the season starts, and the friendlies come, and then we start signing. They've not had a Rangers pre-season. They've had a pre-season elsewhere, I'm sure, but not a Rangers one. I think it's important to get them all together and go to a remote part of Germany, as you say, and a 7-minute golf buggy journey, 2 at a time, from the hotel to the football pitches helps with that as well, and for content. But no, it seemed like a very, very positive pre-season so far. And as I said at the start, I'm looking forward to the friendlies coming in now, and with three or four good quality teams up against, it should put us in good stead for the Champions League qualifiers.
Kieran, one of the things that I've really enjoyed watching the videos, I think it was Caroline who jumped into the chat to say that she's enjoyed catching up with the videos on Rangers TV. I think they've been really good. I think some of the content has been really excellent. There's been some wee jokey things as well, which I think has been quite interesting. Apart from anything else, I think it gives you a window into the dynamic of what the squad is like, how the new guys are getting involved. We saw Kieran Dowell on screen, we saw Lammers and Dessers all on screen. And the thing for me that I think is absolutely obvious is how these guys have instantly just bedded in with the squad. Jack Butland and Cantwell seem to have struck up a really good sort of friendship straight away, which I think is really important, as it is for the rest of them. But for guys that are coming to play for Rangers, some guys that have been there last season are very aware that they ended the season trophy list. They know the requirements for the next 12 months going forward. They know what they need to do without fail. It's good to see the new guys coming in and apparently, by all accounts, just buying into that winning mentality that we hope to adopt from August onwards.
Yeah, that was exactly the point I was going to make there. Like, I know we spoke about numbers and the running and stuff like that, but being away in such a secluded place and having all the players round about you, it was great to see some of the interaction with the players. And you said the name Cantwell there, and I feel like I spoke about him all night tonight. But to me, he's coming across as something I didn't think he would be, and it's a leader. It just seems to radiate to everybody. Like, I know him and Scott Wright have got very close since they've been here, both been here. You've seen it in his picture the other night where he put up, was it Dessers, Lammers and Scott Wright? They're playing Uno together. He touched on that one of the interviews before that, saying he'd get very competitive. Butland as well, like you say. And then I think Cantwell's post last night was something along the lines of, "I've never felt love like this."
Absolutely.
And it's almost like he's really enjoying it here. And I know I was very fortunate to go along to the media day, and I thank This Is Ibrox for letting me go. But Dowell spoke about that very much, that guys like Cantwell absolutely sold the place to him. John Lundstrom he's pretty close to as well. And he spoke so highly about these guys just selling Rangers to them. And we know in the past, guys like especially Jermaine Defoe, who said, man, if he'd come up here so much earlier, he wishes he had a couple of years earlier. And how many folk were on the phone to him asking to come to Rangers? And it's a special place to be, and it just shows you that getting the guys together like that and getting the team to bond well is the way it goes. And the fact that it's Germany and on their own, I was a few years ago under Gerrard. I hate to sound like an old grump here, right? But I think it was the Tenerife one. There was pictures for beach clubs and all that, and players that not so much doing what they shouldn't be doing, but in a pre-season that doesn't quite sit right with me. Yeah. Seeing like the players chilled out and taking it easy and stuff like that. I think there's pictures of Sakala and Yilmaz playing FIFA and all that. Just being a group of guys, being a group of boys, and a bit of bonding. So for me, that's the big thing there.
interesting, Kieran, and I'm going to stick with you in this. You're referring to the sort of media day at the training centre, and Dowell did speak. How did you find him when he spoke about sort of being in and involved around the training centre and the squad as it was at that point? Did you get a good feeling from him? I think a lot of people have largely forgot that he's came up here. You know that? I really do. I think that the focus has largely been on others as opposed to him being a new signing for this season.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was really good. He came in asking guys how they're doing and all that before the cameras went on and stuff, and just seemed really down to earth. And what I felt that he was very strong about was that he's a player that likes to take chances, likes to, his first thought's always to go forward with the ball, and that's what we love to see here. He was saying about like he likes to get shots away anytime he can. And when was the last time we had a player that scored quite a lot of goals from outside the box? So he could be the joker card this year. Everything you hear about him is very positive, but he did speak about having a lot of connections before he came. I know I said Cantwell and Lundstrom, but I'm sure there was more than that. And he was brilliant, very professional. I was going to touch on what one of the journalists says, but I'll not mention that. I think somebody else mentioned it, but not for me.
It's, you know that way, and I think CGM 55 is watching on YouTube. Dowell is interesting. Nobody has him in their starting 11, and that's kind of what I'm alluding to. I don't think many people expect him to start as things stand just now. And listen, I'm not sure that Michael, and this is very stereotypical, so I apologise in advance, but I think rather than Michael Beale looking to have a strong 11, I think what he will absolutely be looking for is an absolutely super strong 18, 19, 20 squad of guys that he knows he can rely on. You know what I mean? Fit guys that will go to the well for him every single week if needs be, and he'll rely on them. I have to say, Callum C, who jumps in to the chat, and I think Andrew alluded to this, the video of Kieran Dowell and John Lundstrom absolutely saying hee-haw to each other in a golf cart for 7 minutes. It's absolutely, listen, without sounding like Todd Campbell, who gets mentioned again, it is incredible content. You know, I joke a little bit about that in the first instance, but I do think it's really important that there is that togetherness amongst the group of guys, and you're bringing new guys in as well. We all know what it's like to maybe start a job for the first time and not know people. Do you know what I mean? These guys instantly have to go in and hit the ground running and prove that the furore around them coming to play for the biggest club in the country is absolutely wanted, and they deserve to be there, and they should be there where their name in the jersey, and they deserve that number. They have to hit the ground running. I hope they do. I hope that over the course of the season that we see loads of them. Blue Nose John suggests that Dowell and Lammers will be a starting in this season. Lammers, I can't wait to see. Technically looks excellent, scored a cracking goal. Kieran, I think you're going to speak about the same goal I was talking about, the flick with the left-hand side.
Yeah, that one. There was something I just remembered for that media day, and I've not mentioned it, and I think I'm the only one that's seen it. Dowell had number 20 on his flip-flops. Now, they're big flip-flops to fill. That might be a wee exclusive, by the way.
Listen, you might be right, and it's worth pointing out that number 20 continues to be moody and miserable elsewhere. For whatever reason, I don't know, and I have to say, it does surprise me. Andrew, Michael Beale took some youth away to Germany. Alex Lowry was there, Leon King, Devine, Cole McKinnon, Bailey Rice, who seems to be, by all accounts, the next big thing to come through the youth. He went out of his way to praise them, saying they all done really well. Bailey Rice, indeed, I don't think he's 17 yet, so to be 16 and fitting in with these guys is really quite incredible. I think often, I don't want it to develop into a pathway discussion, because we do that every so often when we become frustrated with young guys not getting a game. I'm very much guilty of that. However, for the guys to go over and be involved in the first instance is a big, big deal for them, isn't it?
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. It can only be good. It can only do them. It can only do them good in the long term. At that age, 16, 17, 18, to go over there and to be training alongside Cantwell, Raskin, when the Raskin's not there, but you know what I mean, at that level, that ability, it can only work wonders. Not only that, and Kieran touched on it mainly as well, the team bonding is massive at that age. We've all heard stories, we all know people probably who were fantastic at sports, and then they got to a certain age and things go differently. I think it's very important that doesn't happen with certain players, and you've got to imagine managers and coaches all throughout the Rangers system see that coming and taking them away. The ones that went there, he spoke very highly of them, Michael Beale, very highly of him, which I was very glad to see. And he wouldn't do that for nothing. But I think it's very important to take them away and build them into that kind of that teamwork framework, if you like, and do them England. And it being so remote and it being a kind of Rangers only trading area, it's definitely going to do them no harm. It'll do them a lot of good.
Yeah, listen, you're absolutely right. And listen, RFC and indeed Hugo Weir, whose comment I'll flash up in a second. John Lee Feku was across in Germany as well, who is indeed, Hugo's absolutely right. I remember being at the B team Old Firm tie last season with Kyle McLean from This Is Ibrox, and Feku was there. I couldn't believe the size of the boy. And he is, I mean, I think he's only 18, so a real... So a unit, for want of a better term or expression. Whether, again, he's someone who's going to be involved in that sort of first team or not, I don't know. But it's just good that I think Beale is recognising that there is talent that's coming through that conveyor belt that we hear about every so often. And they can go in and train with the first team, and they can hold their own with the first team. It's really important. Kieran, of course, we can't sort of speak about the camp in Germany without referring to Leon King. Bad ankle break, I think, by all accounts, if you delve into social media to see exactly what it is. A real blow for the boy. Now, I don't think anyone really appreciates where he would be in the pecking order, considering I still think we'll have another centre-half to come in before we speak about Leon Balogun returning. But it's just a blow for him, isn't it? He's still a young guy. It's just a stinking injury for him to get and for him to miss such a huge part of a season that's still to start.
Yeah, it's a real shame, and I know that there's never a good time or a bad time to have injuries, but when you're in pre-season, you're in full flow, you've got another year under your belt. I mean, he played every Champions League game last year, and what was it? I think he made 20 appearances. For a guy, 18.
The one thing that I think he looked like a player that was absolutely... I don't want to say frightened, that's unfair, but I do think I actually think the Champions League campaign completely spooked Leon King. He wasn't alone. I think it spooked a lot of these players last season, and indeed I've spoke to people that felt that there were definitely members of the squad that were absolutely freaked out by those 6 games because they were in the end of such heavy beatings. You know what I mean?
I don't mean to say he was hung out to dry, but it was, once again, it was a case of when Goldson was out. I think it'd be a very different story if Goldson was beside him, because we've seen how good Goldson can make guys like Bassey and even the partnership with Balogun. These younger guys that kind of, no younger guys, like Leon King could really benefit from being in next to Goldson, but it was a case of he was in there because he was out, and that was pretty much the downfall of our season last year and just completely put it off the rails. But I absolutely gutted for him. A long-term injury that's going to see him out. Probably we're talking January, February at the earliest. How much he was going to play this year, probably not as much as last year, but even if he did do well and get a loan move, possibly if we'd brought in our centre-back in, that's probably where we would have been looking for Leon King this year. But he's got his best years ahead of him. Let's get this injury out of the way. He's got a cracking head on his shoulders, a great attitude. And like we spoke about with the youth, being over there in Germany, do these guys no harm to be around top professionals 24/7? Like, I know they'll come in and they'll train with the first team and go home, and it's the status quo every other day when you're back home, but actually being and living next to professionals every single day and seeing how they conduct themselves will do them a lot of good. And I don't think King could be in a worse place amongst his teammates when he's done this injury. I'm sure he'll have the full support of all of them.
Yeah, Andrew, I think, I'm a big fan of Leon King, and I do think that I'm like Kieran, I wouldn't say hung out to dry. I think that's probably bordering on unfair. However, he was there and he was playing. I mean, I think someone said in the chat, as a CJM 55 has suggested, that he was playing centre half with James Sands, who we all know now was never cut out. I don't think he was necessarily cut out to play for Rangers. He certainly wasn't cut out to play centre half for Rangers, and we've been lucky enough. The 3 of us in this call, I know I'm the oldest, despite not looking it. And I know that we've all seen really, really good quality centre-halves at Rangers, and we know that that position is a big one to play. In the European games, the big games, you need to play it properly, and you need to play it right. If you're playing it with another guy that isn't a centre-half, you've got an instant problem. But Andrew, I think that Kieran's right. I don't think King was going to be necessarily a first-team pick this year. I think he would have spent a lot of time on the bench. It's just the effect that maybe has in the lad's confidence. Clearly a very confident guy, big boy, similar to Yufeka, who we spoke about earlier on. Incredibly still a young guy. It seems like he's been going around for about 5-6 years now, doesn't it?
He is one of them. You're right. You forget how young he is still. He's been about that long. Kieran and yourself are right. He probably wouldn't have featured as much this season, and the words hung out to dry. That's harsh, I think, for last season. Just circumstance after circumstance, And I did notice that comment, and he wrote that he would be spooked playing centre half with James Sands as well. I think anybody would have been. You're right. Sands probably wasn't for us.
Yeah.
If we're all brutally honest about it, but it's an absolute sickener. But again, Kieran's hit the nail right in the head. He's done it in the right place. He's got the full support of everybody there. How long is he going to be out for? Will he ever come back to the first team after it, kind of thing? It's just, I feel heart sorry for him. I really do. It's an absolute. You don't like to see any player have an injury the length of time, and we seem to have been quite bad for him the last couple of seasons. Tom Lawrence as well. Being so young, I just feel so heart sorry for him. It's a bloody sin.
Yeah. Kieran, obviously when they were away last week, there was a bit of noise that appeared, and before you knew it, Liam Balogun was over there and training and getting involved in the RTV videos. Paul McGregor reckons he could be vital in some of the games we play. He won't play every game. I think we all agree with that. I don't want to say we all hope that. I like Liam Balogun, but I think Paul's right. I don't think he will be involved in all the games. But considering the injury to King, I think it's quite a shrewd bit of business to get him in for a year. Do you not?
Yeah, I think we need to harbour expectations a wee bit. He's not here to play 30, 40 games a season. He's not here to be a starter. But like you say, shrewd bit of business. He's a leader in the dressing room. He's been here. He knows what it's all about. And I think all in all, the guys behind the scenes absolutely love him. And to be honest, I can see him taking up a coaching role after this season. It would not surprise me at all. It was a bit harsh the way he left Rangers, so I think he's delighted to be back. And from everything that he said in his interview, he is happy to be back. But in terms of the football side of things, if you need him to come in and stand in and play centre half, he's going to do it. He knows his place, that he's not going to play every week. And you think if we're 1-0, we're backs against the wall in an away game, you need somebody to come on the last 10, 15 minutes and solely win headers and shore up the back line. You're not going to get many as good as that.
No.
Albeit he's 35. We signed Davy Weir when he was 36.
Yeah.
So,
I completely agree with you. I think it's a good bit of business, and very interesting to hear Michael Beale wax lyrical about as a footballer and a guy, a man. I thought it was really interesting to say that he respects him hugely as a person, which I think is quite a big deal for a manager to say in the current climate. CGM jumps in, speaking of centre halves, where was Ben Davies, and I think Ben Davies was in Germany.
Yeah,
I don't think he was involved in the friendly, certainly, which is quite interesting.
There was a lot of talk around Davis before we went to the media day, and he wasn't on RTV whatsoever in any of the training videos. But myself and Ross did see him, but he was with one of the trainers. So I suspect he's still coming back for that hamstring injury.
On Davies, Kieran, I'll stick with you on this. I think there's a good chance we'll start with a Goldson and Suter partnership in centre half, which I'm absolutely relaxed about. If you've got a third choice centre half and it's Ben Davies or Liam Balogun or Lewis Mayo, I think it's easy to forget, but did have quite a decent loan out of Kilmarnock. Who are you picking as your third choice centre half?
I'm going Davis, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think he's as bad as what he gets the rap for. Terrible mistake at Parkhead that he's not recovered from, but I don't think he's as bad as what people make out. I think he's good on the ball. I think he's a decent enough defender. He's just not really had a good sort of second half of his season, put it that way. He came in with an injury, then he had a good spell of about 10 games next to Goldson. They sparked up a good partnership, and then it kind of tailed off. But aside for that question, I'm with you, Scott. John Souttar is phenomenal. Him and Goldson all day for me. But that third choice centre back, it would be Davies for me. And do you know what? As well, I think this might be unpopular as well. I'd be happy if we stuck with Davies and didn't sign another left centre back.
Wow, really, genuinely?
Genuinely, aye, because I said it the last time I was on the pod, having watched Panzo, and it's not the highlight videos, it's more that it's like watching game videos of him almost on YouTube. It does not look good at all. It doesn't look good at all. I know you said about the boy Trusty, the other centre half impressed you more at Birmingham, so I'm going with that. So for me, Ben Davies is fine. Ben Davies is enough for me, but again, I think it's a case of how much we could get for him. Could we invest that better elsewhere?
Andrew, before we started, did you get the impression that Kyran was involved in anything that he shouldn't have been when he was in Ibiza? Because that is absolutely
his eyes look fine. I'm quite sure it wasn't.
Tell you, he was actually flew home for Peru.
Oh, right. Well, there you go then.
Oh, brilliant. Andrew, I mean,
I'm going to. Can I just jump in? I completely agree with Kyran. I would be happy keeping Ben Davies as well. I don't think he's as bad as folk are making out as well. He had a great start. Partner in Goldson, and I think the mistake at Celtic Park, coupled with just how strong John Souttar was when he came in, I think it's kind of polarised opinion ever so slightly in the wrong way, and I'd be more than happy to start the season with him as our third choice centre back.
Well, there you go. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect you to say that. I genuinely never. I did think, and I think it's big. I actually think Ben Davies is probably is quite a good footballer. I think he's a better footballer than he is a defender, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I've said on this before that I do think that having a left-sided centre half is so much more better for your left back and their flexibility to bomb up and down, because they'll get balls placed in the right area where they need them to be placed to. I do think it's better to have a left-sided centre half. But I didn't expect you to say. I genuinely thought you would have went for Balogun as the third choice centre half, and I listen. I fully understand why you think that that Davies deserves to be in there. I thought he was not a scapegoat as such. He did have that huge error at Celtic Park, which we all know about, and he'll never live that down. I'm afraid that's always going to be in his a mark on his book, if you like, you know. But Blue Nose John says we need two centre halves who are powerful in there, two guys that are absolutely going to attack the ball. I think it'll be Goldson and Souttar that we start off with next season, and I wouldn't have any issue with that at all. Listen, I want to speak about Robbie McCrory, Andrew. I actually thought there was a good chance that McCrory was going to hang around and battle Butland for the number 1 jersey. Now, I don't think for a second that he was going to be number 1, because I don't think Jack Butland was coming up here to be anything other than the leading goalkeeper. Robbie McCrory, I think, is at a stage in his career where he needs to play football as regularly as possible. I don't think a loan deal particularly works for him, because he may come back and Jack Butland's had a cracking season and he's no further forward. I'd be disappointed to see him go in the same instance, despite it being for the good of his career. Selfish as a fan, but similar to King, he's been someone that's been around for a long time. You just almost automatically thought he was going to be the next number 1 after McGregor disappeared.
Definitely, and you're right. The reason he's by all accounts asked to go into the transfer market is because he's not going to take Jack Butland's number 1 place. Now, would you be the number? Would you be happy with McCrory being the number 1? Personally, after the end of last season, I probably would have been. Wouldn't have bothered me in the slightest. But he's not going to hang around to be number 2, and nor should he. In my opinion. It'd be a great keeper to have as a second choice, but I totally understand if he wants to leave to play first team football. I think he deserves it. I think he needs it, and I think he probably will get it. But it really is just off the back of Butland coming up here, and he's not going to come up here to be number 2. He's up here to be number 1. And I had a wee feeling this might happen the minute we signed Butland. We're going to go on to talk about McGregor because the testimonial's coming up on Tuesday. I understand that he's got big gloves to fill. Will he fill them? We don't know with keepers. That's the thing. We just don't know. You can spend various amounts in goalkeepers and they start flinging them in the net. Happened across the city a couple of seasons ago. These things can happen. I'd be disappointed to lose McCrory, but I can totally understand why he wants to go.
Kieran, I saw you shaking your head there when we kind of suggested that we'd be happy with McCrory as number one this season. You're not in that place, clearly.
I'm not, no. I think we touched on it after the Old Firm game in the pod, just to sort of not so much focus on the 90 minutes against Celtic. I think he had a great game that day. He also had a wee error in the game, but after the games after that, I just wasn't convinced at all.
Okay.
And this season, we need to go and win the league. There's no doubt about it. We can't take chances with the goalkeeper and developing McCrory. So it had to be someone with experience. Butland's a great bit of business, but again, he's unproven here. He's not caught a ball for us yet. So we don't know how that's going to pan out. We're going by what we think could happen. But for me, Terry Monroe in the comments there makes a great point. McLaughlin is number 2 gives me the fear, man. I really don't want to see that. I really don't want to see McLaughlin as a number 2. After last season, his time should have been up with us. McCrory, take my Rangers hat off. It's the best thing for his career. He can go out. What I would say, though, is if we're going to fetch in 500,000 for him, would it maybe be better putting him out on loan for a season to a decent loan move where if he has an absolute screamer of a season, we'll get more than 500,000 for him?
Aye.
But if he goes, it's imperative that we bring in another number 2. McLaughlin cannot be our number 2 this season because, God forbid, and touch wood, it doesn't happen. What if there's an injury to Butland? Our season would be off the rails.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And looking at the comments that are coming in is sort of are rather suggesting a similar sort of theme. If McCrory is to go, which I think everyone largely expects to happen, John McLaughlin is the guy that's left as the number 2, and you don't want to go in hard on someone. But I think a lot of the confidence in John McLaughlin's completely gone, and I think it would be better for him and his career, however long's left of it. He could play on for another 3, 4, 5 years yet. So I just don't know if I'd be happy with him coming back in as number 1 if Jack Butland was to get injured. We obviously hope that that's not the case. We played a game, of course, in Germany, Kieran, and we won 2-0. Sima scoring an incredible header. Really good move. Barisic with the cross. Interesting to see Barisic stays as left back next season, by the way. We'll come to that in a second. Great crossover. And Sima, it was one of those, you can almost hear Richard Case and Andy Gray, and I appreciate I'm showing my age here, stretching every sinew of his neck to head it across. It's just a great header, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant. And we spoke about guys that kind of slid under the radar in Germany and in the pre-season. Seema's the one for me. Like all the training videos, I don't think he's missed a chance.
Yeah,
he's all over everything, and he's a fantastic player. And this is one that's going to turn out to be a fantastic bit of business. I'm absolutely sure of it. And when I spoke about that 3-0 Old Firm game and thinking about the guys up front, like, could you imagine Dessers and Seema with Cantwell in behind them? Like, that's a dream. Seema's a finisher. He's going to score a lot of goals for us. And watching that game back, there was a moment in that where Scott Wright turned into Prime Messi. He's just spun and skipped past about 6 of them, and it led to the penalty. So it's delighted that we've got off the mark with penalties this season as well. So long may that continue.
Anyone who watches us regularly will know that Rhys Cochrane's a big part of the group, and every so often he enlightens us with some of his chat in the WhatsApp chat, and he's obviously went with this gimme and Abdallah Sima, obviously in an ABBA fashion. So guys will no doubt be hearing that very, very shortly, which I can't wait about.
See if we sign Danilo. Surely we'll just go with the Diallo song and change the words a wee bit.
So it's late. Listen, Rhys will have an idea, mate. I'm absolutely sure of it. He'll let us know.
The Union Bears need to get their act together and get the ABBA soundtrack back out again.
Andy, James Tavernier scored a penalty in that friendly, so it's good to know that the memos go as far as Germany, which I thought was quite exciting.
That's always a good thing. Penalty to Rangers in the first pre-season friendly in a remote part of Germany behind closed doors. That's just what you love to see. It's probably just to get the Twitter, the media team getting used to typing penalty to Rangers. I like how they've embraced it as well. I must admit, it gave me a wry smile when I seen it.
Absolutely, indeed. Listen, one of the things that's broke out today, Andrew, and I'll stay with you, is that Graham Souness has apparently knocked back an ambassador role at the football club. So this is something that came out of nowhere a little while ago. Graham Souness, of course, left Sky Sports and revealed on Sky Sports that he was going to be going into a big project. I would add that big project now has raised, I've got it written down here, north of 1.3 million. Incredible amount of money. As a non-swimmer, and I openly admit I can't swim, but for a guy to swim the channel for 1.3 million is absolutely incredible. He deserves an unbelievable amount of credit for it. And if he isn't knighted for it or given some sort of BE the next time the King is handing out that sort of stuff, he should absolutely be on that incredible moment. And really, really something I think as Rangers fans we should look at and be quite proud that it's one of your guys went and done that. I personally, Andrew, would have loved to have seen him involved in some ambassadorial role at the football club. Just doesn't seem to be a fit for him as things stand just now.
But I think that's it. That's it exactly. When he was leaving Sky Sports, and he mentioned, as you said, he was going to take a project that meant a lot to him. Us as Rangers fans just assumed he must be Rangers. Yes, of course, and why wouldn't you? And I'm with you, Scott. I would have loved to have seen him as an ambassador for Rangers, and there is time yet, by the way. But to do what he's done is absolutely fantastic, and that's obviously where his passion lies at the moment, and quite rightly so. To raise that kind of money at that age for a charity so close to him is absolutely phenomenal. From what I've read, I don't know whether Rangers are playing it down a wee bit. Biz Groves just said it was a nonchalant cup of coffee, and the idea was brought up, to which he knocked back, if you like. I don't think it probably was as official as we'd like to think. It probably was mentioned, and there's always hope for the future. And who better than Graham Souness to be an ambassador for Rangers? I don't know what the watershed is, but he's just magnificent. We'll leave the other word out at the moment, but to see him as an ambassador for Rangers would be fantastic. And me and you are of similar vintage, Scott, so we can say that with a bit of passion,
Yeah. Listen, ambassador roles, I think, are really, they're difficult roles to fill, particularly if you've been successful. If you've been successful at the club previously and you go back in as an ambassador, it's a huge deal. You have to maintain that reputation that you've had before. You look at guys like Baresi, who is an ambassador at AC Milan. You look at guys like, I think Brian Robson was an ambassador at Manchester United. I think Graham Souness would have been an ideal fit for us, Kyran, to come in and do that role, sort of promote the word, if you like, of Rangers, considering everything that happened in 2012. And I think what we now know, we're back onto that even keel. The journey from then is now over and we're moving on to the next stage. I would have liked to have had him involved. When you consider what he's done the past couple of months, coming back to Rangers was clearly small beer for him. That was his prime focus, and I think he deserves all the credit in the world for seeing that through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got the impression when he left Sky Sports that the focus wasn't on coming back to Rangers. I know everyone spoke about the sporting director role and whatnot, but all he had in mind was the charity work, and it's phenomenal what he's done. Absolutely phenomenal. At his age, I'm half his age, and I could hardly swim the breadth of, I don't know, Hugginfield Lock. But no, it's a bit of a fantasy thing that we always want Souness back at the club in some sort of capacity, given what he did when he was here. It would have been excellent, but Andy hit the nail on the head. I think it was more of a conversation, and it was floated to him as much as I don't think it was as official as what people made out. But when you're trying to sell newspapers and get clicks on websites, then you associate Graham Souness with Glasgow Rangers and everybody's going to be invested. So I think that's where it was blown up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's just, for us, he's a name that's synonymous with the football club. I think when you mention guys like Graham Souness and Wall Smith, they're absolutely synonymous. And me, he's absolutely synonymous with my Rangers supporting growing up. He's absolutely, I see Reece uses the word figurehead in the chat. That's exactly what he is. And I think if we were lucky enough to get him back involved at this stage, he would be exactly that and a little bit more. Listen, guys, we have 10 minutes or so left to go. I can't disappear tonight without speaking about Alan McGregor. Testimonial on Tuesday, Newcastle United coming to town, and their fans. I think there's about 8,000 coming up from Newcastle. Andrew, I'll stick with you first. McGregor, it's hard to believe he's not going to start as number one next season in the first instance, isn't it?
It's going to be very strange. It's going to be very, very strange. Jack Butland hit the nail on the head when he spoke about it. He knows what he's got to do for next season, and so he should. Okay, the last season and a half, there's been arguments podcast wide, Rangers support wide, whether McGregor should be the starting number one. I was always the impression that he should be. Where do you even start with Alan McGregor? I think it was with you, Scott, or was it Craig and Kyle? I can't remember. We discussed favourite 11, and I put McGregor in. Yep. I put McGregor in front of Gorham, and I stand by it. I really do stand by it. And I met Andy Gorham at a speaker's lunch, and shook him by the hand, and I told him that, because at that time we weren't doing very well. I can't remember the year. And I said it was his fault, because I grew up in the 90s watching Rangers, and I just believed at that time, age of 8 or 7 years old up to 16, that we just couldn't be beaten. And a lot of that was down to Andy Gorham. Yeah. So when it wasn't going so well, I blamed him for it. He laughed about it, and that was fine. But I still stand by it. I put McGregor in my all-time favourite 11 for Rangers. I can't speak highly enough of him. Unfortunately, I can't make it on Tuesday night. I'm absolutely gutted that I can't make it, because over the 2 periods I've been there, we've all been there and watched it. The saves he's made, the Europa League run, it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. It will be weird to see him not starting as the Rangers number one, but also exciting. It's also exciting for other reasons. But as I say, disappointed I'm not making Tuesday night. But what a legacy!
Absolutely. Kieran, same question to you. McGregor not being there as goalkeeper, I think is something we're all sort of going to be quite unfamiliar with and will find strange. It looks like Tuesday night is going to be an absolute sellout by all accounts. I hope he gets Alan McGregor strikes me as a really quite an emotional big chap. I don't think he has this sort of over the top swagger that I think has been sort of fired against him for a long time. I think he's quite an emotional big guy. He clearly has enjoyed playing for Rangers over the years. I think we'll miss him here in the dressing room, around the place generally. It'll be interesting to see how we get by without him, if you like.
Yeah, when you talk about the mentality that it takes to play for Rangers, he had it in abundance. I remember hearing an interview and someone was talking about him, saying that after an Old Firm game, you'd go into the dressing room, guys would be absolutely buzzing, the place would be jumping, and there would be McGregor sitting there, not really doing much, going about his business as he usually does, just basically saying, look, we've won one game, we've not won anything yet, and it was all about trophies for him. And he had some success throughout his career at Rangers. The one that stands out for me was the Samaras penalty. I remember the New Year game where Samaras came to life for them. They ended up winning it 2-0, where it didn't look like they had a hope in hell. And then that game came, penalty last minute. We looked dead and buried. Samaras is stepping up, and you're thinking, my God, like, here we go again. I remember sitting in the Copeland watching it through the gaps in my fingers, and he saved it. And I knew right then that we were going to win the league. Yeah. And that was McGregor's save that made that. But the European runs as well, the save against Werder Bremen, the save against, what was it, Prague last year?
Yeah.
Right, saying that, unbelievable. And the penalty save at Ibrox against Red Star, and legend, absolute legend of Glasgow Rangers, and a character right into the bargain. When you hear the stories about him, and I touched on that trip to Tenerife, Andy Halliday's story, and he thought Walter Smith was texting him about the story being in the paper, and that, absolutely brilliant. So, he'll be missed. I wouldn't throw it out there and cause controversy and say maybe he could come in as number 2 next year, but we'll leave that for another pod.
It's good to see you're not going to put that out there. Absolutely. I think that, listen, for someone like me who's I've been lucky enough to see loads of good goalkeepers at Rangers, Chris Woods, Andy Gorham, McGregor. For me, and I've said this previously, McGregor is right up there. I think he's the best of the three. And I was an incredibly big fan of Andy Gorham. I and Woods previous. We've just been lucky. We've been lucky with these big, good goalkeepers. We've been fortunate to have them. And Jack Butland, you know what I mean? He's right. He has gloves to fill that he's probably never had to fill before. So it'll be very interesting to see if he gets on next season. Guys, that'll just about wrap it up for tonight. Andrew, thank you for joining us. Good to see you, my friend.
And you, thoroughly enjoyed it. Cheers, Scott.
And Kyran, welcome back from Ibiza. You can chill out now, get the bags unpacked, get the cream put back in the fridge for when you go away again.
Oh, my wife's ahead of the game, but nah, I think that'll be my last abroad for a while. I'm going to be a Rangers dad come December, so I've got my work cut out for me, so my chill time is in limited numbers at the moment.
Wonderful news. Congratulations to you from all of us here at this Is Ibrox. Really, it's good news. So listen, we continue to grow this season. It's an exciting time to join us. We are keen to hear from anyone who'd be interested in getting involved in the Rangers B and women's team. If it's something that you're interested in covering these guys, drop us a DM via our Twitter, which is at This Is Ibrox. From a social media perspective, you can also catch us on Instagram. We are there on Facebook. We're also now on TikTok now, which is a young team thing. I'm not going near that, to be perfectly honest with you. However, if it's your bag, make sure you follow us there. We've rocked out our new website this week, all W's, thisisibrox.com. If you want to jump on and check us out, you can. All of our articles will be going on there, some tactical analysis pieces as well. If you can check them out, then please do. This week, as far as a schedules perspective is concerned, Craig Dennett returns with a brand new time in the breakdown tomorrow night. He is here from 9 o'clock. Join him if you can. The Gantry pod returns on Tuesday, post-match after Alan McGregor's testimonial on Tuesday night, which is something we're really looking forward to. We're looking forward to getting back to the Gantry to do that. And Kyle is back with a warm-up on Wednesday night from 7 o'clock. As always, join us if you can. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to everything we do. Hit your notifications on so you get a little message each time we go live. Join Craig tomorrow. He's back from 9. Thanks for watching. Good night.